Hello, book nerds. Welcome to the Book Nerds podcast. It is that time of the year where we are all cheerful, and of course, to bring more cheer into our lives, especially the book lovers. I have with I have we invited an author over at the podcast. Her name is Richa Gupta, and she's right here with us. Welcome, ma'am. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for calling me and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I'm super excited because it's always great, of course, to talk to authors, read books, and of course get into the mind of the authors. But it is even more exciting when the author has had uh, an uh, an academic background. I mean, you have been a teacher for over 31 years now, and not only just teaching, of course, technical editing. Yeah,
Just to correct you,
yeah.
I've been a teacher for 19 years,
Okay, okay.
19 and a
Sorry,
half years,
sorry.
you can say. And I've
Yeah.
been an instructional designer or an editor also for an equally long period of time.
All right.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I've been a teacher for 19 and a half years, you can say. Yeah. Not
I
31 years is my total career.
as
Yeah.
I being an ex teacher, I would say that you once a teacher, always a teacher. So okay,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely. That's true.
that's
Yeah.
true, right? I mean, you always end up kind of having that bug. You always want to teach. It's be it a mentor or whatever. Of course, you have had
Yes.
your education from Delhi University, MA
Yeah.
in English, and taught at the prestigious Williams Girls High School in Dehradun, and of course CJM in Delhi from for multiple periods, and involved with speech, drama, and other activities. Of course, conducted so many, and yeah, editing also. I mean, there is a huge bio which of course the readers can go through on your page and on our page as well. Of course, let's talk about the book at hand. This is the book we are going to talk about. It's called The Jamun Tree and Other Short Stories and Other Stories. And you know, first of all, the name is very interesting because coming from the heartland, I mean from North India, one knows the importance or significance of a jamun tree. I mean, I don't know if others, I mean, who are watching down south or from outside India know the significance, but jamun is a part of our sort of culture, especially in Uttar Pradesh and these areas. And I was immediately drawn to the book because nobody has kind of uh, delved into this particularly. So that got me excited, first of all. Of course, there are so many other stories which we'll be speaking about in short. But did this book start from the Jamun tree, or it was just that uh, uh, the title was sort of organically came into its being?
Rohan, right? I've got the
Yes, yes,
name right.
yes.
Okay. So I had written a lot of stories simultaneously, like multiple stories, out of which I selected 19 to go into this book.
Okay,
And of all of them, the jamun tree was very close to my heart because it is
okay.
something with, there was a jamun tree. The idea stems from a jamun tree that was there in my parents' house. We had
Right,
a jamun
right,
tree in the garden,
right.
and we used to sort of eat the jamuns, when in season, and break them and things like that. So the
Yeah,
idea came from there. Of course, the story is very different, because
yeah,
but the idea of a tree, the heritage of a
yeah,
tree that we derive
yeah,
from our ancestors, because
yeah.
trees planted 40, 50 years back are planted by our,
Yeah.
predecessors.
I know.
And then we sort of just destroy it in a single moment. We just sort of ruin
Right,
that entire heritage of that tree, all the years that have gone into it in a
right.
single moment, in the name of development. So I think I got the idea from there. And
Yeah.
because this story was so close to my heart, I think I just named the book The Jamun Tree and Other Stories.
I was really excited, just reading the name, and of course, I would like to quote from what you're talking about. I mean, it's the first story, of course, and
Yeah,
it's quite hard hitting, to be honest. I mean, it's
yeah,
not. I mean, on the surface, it might look, very innocuous, but it is quite hard hitting. And of course, at the end, you say that with the unending spiraling of the human population, land in metropolises had become too precious to harbor a vast, luxurious bungalow that housed a single family and an expansive jamun tree. They had become obsolete and needed to pave the way for the vertical growth of city housing. And it is so, relevant. And I mean, it's quite, all the stories, in fact, are quite existential. Tell me something. I mean, of course, writing fiction, it's a task in itself. Somebody just
right.
asked me earlier this year that why don't you have a book of your own? I said that,
Hmm.
okay, let's get serious here. Let's first
Uh-huh.
learn how to read, and then, eventually, kind of uh, graduate to writing.
Hmm.
Uh, what does writing fiction bring to your life? I mean, of course, you write it for the reader, of course.
Yeah.
But there are some authors who say that we just write it for ourselves. What does it bring to your life? What does it add to you?
Okay, so I have always been, very interested in writing, but I was very busy with my career, you can say. So I could devote time to this, only after I was done with everything, and I stopped working, in various allied fields.
Right.
And then, first of all, when I'm writing, I don't think much about, like how will it sell, what will happen to it, how will it go into production,
Mm.
etc. I'm
Yeah.
writing more for self-expression,
Right.
and
Yeah.
there are themes that intrigue me, that really interest me. So
Yeah.
I just, it's floating in my mind all the time. So I'm actually expressing all those thoughts that are floating around in my mind.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so my first version is very intuitive.
Okay.
I think there's an echo of some sort, or is that fine with you? I mean, is there
No,
some
it's fine.
echo?
It's fine.
I'm
It's fine.
talking.
It's. I think it's just for you. On the live, it is just fine.
Oh, okay. So, I'm writing very intuitively. And then, my second, third version, when I'm sort of going over it again, then I'm refining it with the reader in mind.
Okay.
Will the reader lose interest? I must make it fast paced. I must,
Yeah.
sort of keep something back from the reader, keep him interested. So then the reader comes secondly into the story. The visualization is more for my immediate self expression, and then
Right.
refine later with the reader in mind.
Right. It's
So
wonderful
that's
because
how I would put it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting because it's when you know too much, and I spoke about it briefly before we went live, that once you know too much, perhaps it's difficult to kind of, that first draft, that
Uh-huh.
organic first draft to come
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
um doesn't one kind of, keep on, correcting yourself in the first one, because you know too much sometimes. Is there a risk of kind of, letting the sort of organic part kind of, fade a little bit? Is there a risk like that?
I have been an editor also. For a
Yeah.
very long time, I was editing people's work, I was
Yeah.
reviewing their work, and even
Yeah.
I worked for a few publications as well, like
Right.
OUP, etc.
Yeah.
So, language corrections come automatically in my mind. So, my
Right.
first
Right.
draft is not written in scraps and bits. Like
Okay.
it's already corrected from the point of view of language, more or less.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not haphazard that
Yeah.
such. But
Yeah.
what I do is bring the reader into my perspective when I'm revising it.
Yeah.
And from the language point of view, that comes automatically, because I edit my own books, so I don't give it to an editor to be edited. So
Yeah.
I mean, the language corrections come automatically into my mind. Okay,
Right.
this is where a dot where a period comes in, where a comma
Yeah.
comes in, etc. That happens even in the
Yeah.
first draft. You'll see all the punctuation in place and everything there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is just that I'm revising it with the reader in mind the second time, thinking of myself as a reader, like, am I losing interest at this point,
Yeah.
reading it
Yeah.
as a reader. and then thinking, okay, am I losing interest? Am I interested in what's happening, going to happen next?
Yeah.
Or, is it very dry? So that is the revision that happens. But organically, the first draft already has language corrections included. That has all
Awesome.
the elements of language there, because I tend to think in those terms. Having taught grammar and
Yes.
punctuation and all that is there in the first draft itself.
Yeah.
Usually
Yeah.
that comes in right at the end, but here
Yeah.
it's already there. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is such a boon. I mean, that is the kind of the hard part these days. And been speaking with a lot of professionals, and the editor matters so much.
Yes.
Bala just purchased the book on Kindle. So Bala,
Uh,
give us your feedback. Give us your feedback when you eventually read it. I hope you love it, and um, let ma'am know on, perhaps give a review on Amazon. Why not? And ma'am will know. Okay. There's a question here. I really wanted you to see. Yeah. Let's, before the question, I would like to ask you. I mean, on page 50, and
okay.
this is inheritance, and one of my
Okay.
favorites. You have
Huh.
written this very short, poem, and it says, when you distribute my possessions, keep my keep my jewels and clothes, remember the person who wore them, and the heart that beat at your woes, with my pearls around your neck and my watch on your wrist, remember not to wreck my desires and my behest. And this is, I mean, this is life. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
And this story also, um
Yeah.
it is so close to home, and it will be close to home for so many people. I mean,
Yes.
it must have
Yes.
happened to your friends, perhaps. Tell us more about inheritance a little.
In inheritance, I'm dealing with something which is very common, and I mean, which happens in almost every household. Because when your aged grandparents, etc., they pass away, or your aged parents pass away, their possessions are distributed across their progeny, and all the grandchildren and etc. So there is the physical part of it, that is the possession, the physical possessions, and there is
Yeah.
also some emotional, you know gifts that they leave behind, or their emotions that are associated with those objects. So
Yeah.
here, everybody is thinking about what will they get physically. I'm talking about a family, what's happening in a family. And when the matriarch expires, everybody is thinking about, the house and the furniture and the this and the that. There is just one young boy, the youngest grandchild, her youngest
Yes.
grandchild, who's only
Yes.
thinking about the poetry she wrote and how
Yeah.
she had shared her poetry with the boy. So,
Yeah.
it's a very emotional bonding that they had shared. And
Yes.
this is a poem that she had written because she was a
Yes.
poetess.
Yeah.
And he associated, because he himself had an appreciation for poetry. So he appreciated that about her.
Yeah.
And so he says, I don't want any of the physical possessions. I only want all the poetry that she has written, and I want to publish them. So this is totally
Beautiful.
against the grain of the rest of the family, who don't value her poetry and who are actually looking for the physical gifts from her.
Yeah.
So that is what I've tried to portray, how this is a far more valuable possession that has passed on to him. Her
Yeah.
love for literature is far more valuable, her poetry is far more valuable than all the physical gifts that she has left behind.
It
So
was
this is
beautiful.
the angle
Samir,
I
right?
want to bring
Samir.
out.
I remember the name Samir, I think so. That guy.
Yes, yes,
So
right,
it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and everybody was, listening to the. I mean, I won't say much because people have to read the book, of course.
right.
I won't say much about the story, and let's say that it was about, inheritance of a lot of money. So yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
There's a question here. Adit is asking, which books were you reading while writing these stories, or did you distance yourself from reading to avoid being influenced while writing these stories?
I wasn't doing much reading while I was writing these stories, actually. And nothing of my current reading has come into them. I think my past reading, what I used to read earlier,
yeah.
that somewhere comes into my stories because I'm very influenced by Agatha Christie's writing. I love the
Wonderful.
mysteries that she used to create.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
love the way that, everything was exposed in the end, and, it came as a surprise to the reader. It held a
Right.
thrill,
Yep.
all the
Yep.
work, all her work. So
Yep.
I mean, a lot of my stories are influenced by her
Yep.
and the events that I see happening around me. For example, the
Right.
second story, The Interview,
Yep.
if you remember, there was a celebrity who died the previous year, and his
Yes. Yes.
girlfriend was being blamed for,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
having
Yes.
misled
Yes.
him and,
Yes.
spent all his money and things like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So, if you see the second story starts
Right.
off from something like that, a
Yes.
murder mystery,
Yes.
but then it takes an entirely different route.
Yep.
So I do observe what is happening around me, and most of
Yep.
that comes into the story, not my current reading.
Right. And in fact,
Yeah.
it is because I mean, even the pandemic has been, an underlying sort of theme in the entire book, I suppose, if I am not mistaken. It is
Yes.
mentioned in a lot of places, and so it shows
Right.
that it is very sort of current, and you are being influenced by
Yes.
whatever is happening around you. I
Yes.
think okay, there's a comment here. Yeah.
Many of the stories are influenced by current events. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hardik is saying, love the story Art of Living from this book. Art of
Okay.
Living. He liked Art of Living. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, we are talking about reading, and do you feel that for the short story genre, I
Uh-huh.
mean, of course, there are lots of ways you can write. I mean, there are different forms. There could be
Mm-hmm.
micro fiction and flash fiction and the short
Yeah.
story novella. But um, what do you prefer, if at all,
Uh-huh.
or it's just that it depends on the issue that you are catering to?
See, I have written novels as well, but
Yeah,
my last two books have been collections of short stories
yeah,
because I prefer this genre because I have so many germs of thought in my mind that,
yeah,
I like to start off fresh with each thought that I'm getting.
yeah,
And short story collection allows me to do that, you
yeah,
know, to
yeah.
uh, to develop all the multiple ideas that I have. Otherwise, I would have
Right.
to stick to one storyline. So
And
recently, I think I've fallen in love with this form of short story writing, which is not really appreciated very much by publishers. They think that
yes,
short story collections are not viable commercially, but I
yeah,
don't. I don't think so. I think that if they're written well, readers will appreciate them, and if there's nothing like that. It shouldn't matter. It
yeah,
shouldn't matter.
yeah.
I've seen many, many excellent writers write short stories which have stayed in my mind for years and years.
Well, I mean,
So
the market uh, says something. I mean, people predicted that the stock market will go up and up, but it recently crashed. So we
yeah,
can't get into. I mean, listen to the market all the time, of course. And
right,
if something is written well, it will connect. Uh,
yeah.
what are the triggers for you? I mean, there's so many authors who have been on the podcast, and just a moment, hide this comment. And there's so many authors who have been on the podcast, and there's always a trigger, to
Yeah,
write. I mean, it's
yeah,
not just that what you want to write, and then it just happens. There's always a trigger for a story.
yeah.
What is the trigger for you? Is it a character, a setting, plot, or dialogue? Not only for this one, of course,
Hmm.
for Jam, we know that you were. Tell us about previously also.
Hmm. Hmm. See, my first book was motivated by the perception of women in society,
Yeah,
you can say. They were supposed to be appendages to the men, and the men were given a lot of
yeah,
priority by not only their families, but the women's families. And, they were made to feel like demigods, and the women were supposed to cater to their needs, so they were just like appendages.
yeah.
And there was no question of giving her freedom of identity, choices, nothing. Everything was decided for her by her father or by her husband, and later by her son. So there was no independent choice. That was what motivated my first book, and I felt very
Yeah.
strongly about this issue.
Yeah.
And there's especially if the marriage was not working, women were forced to stay in the marriage because what will society say, and
Yes.
how can what will happen to you after you come away, like how will you
Yeah.
cope with life on your own, etc., etc.,
Yeah.
etc. So
Yeah.
she was carrying the burden of the entire society on her shoulders, that she
Yeah.
had to keep the marriage going
Yeah.
because society will have something to say. That
Yeah.
made no sense to me. It really made no sense to me at all. I think that so that was what triggered my first book.
Yeah.
um, and my second book was triggered by lots of women's issues again.
Yeah.
It's about a group of women who travel and who go
Yeah.
on a trip together. There are about 16 women. I think for the first time, I brought 16 women characters of different ages together.
It's called Skeins.
And
Skeins, huh?
yeah, on a trip, and then they discover something about themselves and something about each other, and they form a strong bonding.
Yeah.
And they find that there are issues in their life. Some of them get resolved, some of them don't
Yeah.
get resolved, but they are able to cope with it because they've got the freedom to sort of explore. They when they venture out on their own without any of their family members, they
Yeah.
feel independent enough to take choices. you know
Right.
so this is something which is new in society, that is, women
Yeah.
have started taking choices. At least they
Right.
have the right to do that.
It's
It's
quite
no longer
evident.
the fact
It's
that your family members are making choices for you.
Yes. It's quite
And
evident in the book, actually. It's quite evident in most of the stories. And
yeah,
because, I mean, uh, most of the women characters are very strong characters. And I would like to mention one part. I think it's a good upbringing. In
yeah,
a good upbringing, there is a part where, it is said the main duty of a woman's parents, according to her, was to foster the economic well being and stability of their daughter's household. Her husband had been treated as a demigod by her parents, his every wish deciphered and eagerly fulfilled up to his death last year. So, this is kind of, this story. Of course, what happens at the end is a different thing, and readers have to kind of explore that. But you have,
yeah,
kind of, with Revati Devi, you have
yeah,
explored this side of, this is Bharat. I mean,
yeah.
this is what's happening. And
Yes.
tell us more about this story.
See, here I have portrayed against, again, the older generation, their thought process, and the newer way of thinking that is happening in most households today. The women who have been brought up in the traditional style, they still think that, when they bring a daughter-in-law into the house, she will come escorted with lots of gifts. Even though they don't verbally, may not express it at the beginning, but they
Yeah.
do have that expectation.
Oh
And
yes.
they think that a good upbringing implies that the parents will try and fulfill their wishes and try and cater to their needs, etc., etc. Whereas the newer generation is really not interested in all this. They just want
Yes.
to have a good life, and they want to have good experiences in life. They're not interested in how many jewels the girl is bringing or not bringing, etc., etc. So there's been a change of perception. That's what I'm trying to show. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Also, I mean, you are a teacher. You have been teaching students, and it's hard. I mean, to inspire kids to kind of read, take up reading,
Yeah,
especially.
yeah,
What
definitely.
do you feel is the importance of kind of book clubs to kind of be incorporated in schools and other, obviously, alternative learning organizations? What can be the importance of book clubs in all of this?
When children, to inspire them to read, I think they should be given reading material for their age, suitable for their age, which is interesting.
Yeah.
What the mistake that most parents do is that they foist all these dry books on the children. This is good for
Yeah.
you. Read it, read it, read it. Now the book may be really dry, and children, they lose interest totally in reading. Now, if they are reading Enid Blyton, or maybe what is that, Hardy Boys or something like
Yes,
that, which is suited
yes,
to their age, their
yes,
interest in reading will remain. But
right.
I think parents try to voice their own, views about right and wrong books and this and that.
Yeah,
So I think that if you all foster this love for reading by giving them reading material which is interesting
yeah,
and well written
yeah,
and suited to their age level, then they will definitely enjoy it.
yeah. Uh, let's talk about and that is so relevant because these days parents go on Amazon and kind of just go through the best selling ones and just keep it in their cart, just
Yeah,
add it to the cart, and that's about it. But what
yeah,
happens with Amazon is that Amazon is just an algorithm. It will show you uh, the books that are selling, best
yeah,
selling books,
yeah.
not the apt book for your
Correct.
child. And
Yeah.
still, I suppose the word of mouth and sort of interacting about books is very important. So
Yes.
I would say
Yes.
that a wonderful story that you have written, the debate, which also shows the teacher side of you, which I
Correct.
really appreciated, was that you're talking about, and this is the start of the story. The senior school wing of Tikuna Convent School wore a festive air, and Archana Sopte had a difficult time holding the attention of class 12C. Class 12, I mean, we all know how class 12 kids can be during a explanation of the poem The Eagle by Lord Alfred Tennyson. Though it was only the second period of the day, consisting of only two short stanzas of 3 lines each, the poem included figurative language, visual imagery, and symbolism par excellence. These literary devices, it
Yes.
is so important. uh,
Absolutely.
what do you feel about these devices, because there are loads of writers these days who are not
Yeah.
aware about the devices. They are
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
writing. I mean, they are writing, of course.
Yeah.
There and I mean, ample justifications are given for faltering in language, of course.
Yeah.
That is totally fine. So
Yeah.
what do you feel about it? Because you must have read so many of these books where you have edited.
Yeah.
What is the process like?
See, when you're writing literary fiction of any kind, it's
Yeah,
very important. I mean, these devices are really important. You may not know what the definition of a metaphor or what a metaphor is, but if you're using metaphors in your poem or your verse or your prose,
yeah,
it makes the writing much more beautiful. So I mean, people who can appreciate the beauty of language, they
yeah.
will definitely appreciate a sentence written with a metaphor rather than that same sentence written in plain as a simple sentence. So I think that it lends a lot of beauty to writing, and especially poetry. Poetry, with your alliteration and metaphors and your personification and all these devices, used. And when children begin to appreciate all these, and they begin to understand and appreciate the use of these literary devices, they will be very enriched.
Right.
It's an enrichment to be able to appreciate this imagery and this
Right.
beautiful language. Yeah.
In fact, my follow-up question to that is that, of course, a lot of readers, I keep on seeing online also, there are a lot of readers who are reading on Kindles. I mean,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not for Kindles, but a lot
Right.
of readers are doing that because
Yes.
we have
Yes.
got small apartments. We can't, keep so many books. I mean, of course, I have the luxury of, space, but
Yeah.
not everyone has got that. So
Right.
can these devices be sort of in the future incorporated inside the text so that people get to know when it is hitting them? Sometimes you just don't realize,
Yeah.
as a maybe a reader who has read 5 odd books,
Yeah.
that person won't realize.
Right. I nowadays the attention span is getting shorter and shorter with so much of media around. Everybody is losing patience. They can just
Yeah.
switch from one to another on the, with a tap. They can just switch off what they're watching and what they, change what they're watching. So I think that people are losing the patience to read extensively and to appreciate it and to savor the beauty of language.
Yeah.
So Kindle reading, I mean, I'm not for it at all, because I cannot appreciate a book without, having it physically in my hand and dwelling on it. Until I dwell on a story,
Yeah.
I'm lost. I can't enjoy it.
In
And
fact, I was like, sorry to cut you off. In fact, in the previous podcast, I didn't get the book, and I was like very fidgety. I didn't have
uh,
the book in my hand, and I was like,
yes.
what do I do now? Because it happens. Once you get used to, or maybe we are too old school, perhaps.
I don't know what the children will progress to, but they must learn to really read with a book in hand. That's something
Yeah.
which I think is very important.
Yeah. Abin
With
is
a physical
asking.
book. Yeah.
Abin has got a question, ma'am. Can you speak about the role of images of gender in children's literature? This is a very specific question.
Yeah.
Would you like to answer?
So actually, we should try and use gender neutral language. Like instead of chairman, we should say chairperson. Like
Mm, mm,
I think this is something which we must change in the way that we
mm.
write.
Yeah.
And this, we have to be conscious of it, and we shouldn't have these gender specific roles also for children to imbibe, that the man has to be strong. A man is strong, and he's always with guns and kind of physical warfare, and this and that is supposed to be manly. So all these gender stereotypes have to go. We must not let them penetrate into the minds of youngsters nowadays,
Yeah.
and that depends a lot on the books that they read and the way that the books are written.
Yeah.
So writers should be
Also,
very
yeah.
conscious.
Yeah. Also, Abin, I think so. A lot of children writers are doing that. I mean, there are loads of writers who are doing that. There are some
Yeah.
great books that are kind of, they are very aware writers. So, if you explore these books, I mean, a lot of good books from Doug Bill,
No,
especially,
but if
are.
you look at most children's fiction, like even the fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White and all, what do they have? They have a girl
Oh,
who's,
yeah.
moping until a charming prince comes into her life and
Yeah.
wakes her
Yeah.
up with a kiss and,
Yeah.
with a correct slipper. So all these are actually perpetuating that image. You know,
True, true,
we have to
true.
change that as well.
And of course, not only children's literature, you'll find that most of the Indian writers are way ahead on this. I mean, they are very aware, most of them,
Yeah,
like at least
yeah,
90% of whatever I've read in the past
yeah.
5 odd years, they are very aware, and including ma'am. Ma'am has also, I mean, in fact, I was like, where are the men in this? I mean, please give them more. I'm just kidding. Okay, so
I find it much easier to write about women. There are so many
I
complexities to them. Men are simple. They are,
simple. That's why. No, I don't mind. I don't mind women being at the helm of things at all. There is one, and this is my final question. And of course, all the other stories are also interesting. But one of my
okay.
favorites was Perspective. The way it was, built up. This is one of the. I think Perspective is one of the longest short
Yeah,
story, if I'm
true,
not wrong.
true. Right? Yeah,
And
correct.
it includes, an aspect of life when we are, on social media. We are kind of, very happy, posting pictures there, but in in reality, we some of us are not doing so well, and then we are trying to, explore means to kind of, go to, get medication, or, go to, shrinks and psychiatrists. And so
Yeah.
this story, uh, uh,
Mhm.
of course, what was the trigger behind it? And it's quite interesting the way it all plans out in the story.
Yeah. See, in perspective, I've tried to show, how the elite society, they have a duality to them. If you look
Yeah.
at their social media handles, you'll
Yeah.
think that their life is full of beauty and, luxury, and they're having a fab time. They're, going for holidays in foreign locales and buying the best that can be bought.
Yeah.
But actually, they might, if you look into their interior, if you see their
Yeah.
lives in reality, I
True.
think they're full of, loneliness and isolation, and a lot of negativity is going on there.
Right.
And especially the generation gap is very existent, I think, in them. parents, there's a lot of rebellion against parents and the authority, in their lives.
Yeah.
The authority figures become, like demons to them,
Yeah.
because they're curbing them, they're correcting them, so they don't like it. And sometimes the perspective now this perspective may change, and it is when it changes and they see things in the correct light that things come into focus.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they keep regarding the authority figures as, somebody who's anti them.
Yeah.
So that's why I've called this story perspective, because it involves a change of perspective.
Mm.
How, a young person sees things in one light, and then when her perspective changes, she realizes something about herself.
Yeah.
So that's a very important thing in life. I think this is necessary for many youngsters today.
Yeah.
The perspective with which they look at their authority figures, their parents, their elders, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, I mean, the year is ending, but it is ending on such a high. I think so. This is the final podcast of the year. And oh no, there's one more to go. But, with fiction, this is the final podcast. And it has been an incredible year, signed off by this amazing book. And guys, let me tell you, some of the finest short stories to come out, at least from, I mean, reading a lot of short stories as well, but one of the finest to come out, especially because the language is just on point. And I'm not saying it because the author is here, it's just on point. It is so contemporary, it is very existential, it is right now. And you'll find, that, these stories, you'll find yourself in them also. There are some things which we don't do right. I mean, social media, who is not flaunting themselves on social media? So, these things, we need to get a reality check. Ma'am, thank you so much. And at the end, because this is a readers community, some recommendations from you, which people should kind of pick up. Of course, one needs to get a copy of this one, of course, but perhaps other books, other short stories, perhaps, that have influenced you, which the reader can pick up.
Other short stories, well, I would go back to the 19th century. I think the
Okay.
writers, then I think Saki.
Okay.
Saki was somebody. Catherine Mansfield, I really
Yeah.
liked. Um, Henry Munro is, I think, the actual name of Saki, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I liked R.K. Narayan. I still like Ruskin Bond.
Yeah.
And
Have you met him? Have you met him?
sorry,
Have you met Ruskin
Ruskin
Bond?
Bond. No, I
Yeah.
haven't. But I attended one debate where he came as a chief guest. When I was teaching in Wellams, he was called as a chief
Yeah.
guest for one of the debates.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Wonderful.
And and the children went to interview him and all that.
Yeah.
So I was around then, but I
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
personally met him really.
Yeah.
But I really love the way that he writes, and
Yeah.
especially the way he depicts nature, and
Yeah.
his
True.
life in Dehradun and Masuri and
Yes.
all that.
Yes.
Um, what else? I like Jampa Levi also. Her short
Yeah.
stories are excellent.
Yeah.
I think Interpreter of Maladies, I think, was a
Yes.
short
Yes.
story.
Yes. Yes.
And there were some more of the, I'm not able to recall all the names of short
Yeah.
story writers, but they've,
No
uh,
worry.
H.G. Wells
Yeah.
had
Yes.
also written some very good short stories.
Yeah.
So I like all of them. Yeah. I've been
A
very
lot
influenced
of,
by all of them.
yeah, a lot of classics to pick from, and of course, your favorite Agatha Christie. Guys,
Yes.
read all these, and then of course, go on
Jeffrey
to
Archer is also very
Jeffrey
good.
Archer. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's so many. I mean, there are so many books to read. But I would recommend that you also, kind of explore the Indian authors. There's so many going around there. Of course, yeah, the Jamun Tree and other stories. It is a wonderful book. The first story will get you in to the entire scenario, and then it just gets better from there. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. It has been a pleasure reading the book. I had a wonderful time reading it. I mean, just before Christmas, and looking forward to so much more from you. Looking forward to reading more the previous books as well. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you, and through you, I would like to tell the readers, that every that if they do enjoy or they have some feedback for the book, they can easily get back to me. I'd love to hear from them.
Awesome. And there was only one thing that was abrupt on page 128 odd. There, I think
Uh-huh.
there is a printing thing. Perhaps it is in my copy or something. It is the pages are flipped or something. That is the only thing I was like, it was jarring for me. And beyond
Okay.
that, the pages are ulta, I think so, in printing or something.
Acha, really?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes. So
maybe
I
it's just
thought,
happened in a few copies because
हाँ हो
I
सकता है
the books I have are fine. Yeah.
हो सकता है possible है. I just thought maybe it is not the case with all the copies, so I just
Okay, I'll
pointed it
just check
out.
that out. I'll check that out. That's very
I
important.
think it's 127, 128 page number.
Okay, okay. I'll
Just
check it out. I'll check it out.
awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for everyone who asked questions. Thank you so much. It's always good to kind of interact in these sessions. And for other book related content, you can always come to Book Nerds for podcasts or book recommendations, etc., etc. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank
We are
you.
looking
Thank
forward to
you.
so much
Thank you
more.
very much. Okay.